Aloha. I want to throw together another video that I had to put this together because from my perspective, this is actually more potent, more all-encompassing of the relationship that humanity has to human consciousness and the physical reality and energy itself than the flat earth talk or the Mandela effect. In fact, it encompasses all of this stuff because it's something that we engage and disengage within every day, and something that we are being told is not important by the so-called controllers is also being manipulated to by design and by actual tools to separate us. Tools of psychology and of like actual things. So basically it's dreams. It's the importance of our dreams. And I was talking to my cousin earlier about smoking weed and how I stopped smoking weed a few months ago, and one of the main reasons why I stopped was because it was affecting my dreams. And I always knew this, and it was always a thing. And that's one of the biggest points I'll get to in a second, that it's a thing that smoking cannabis will stop you from experiencing your dreams. And I used to say, oh yeah, well, it's because we are accessing the higher vibrations or energies when we tap into that space when we smoke it. So when we dream, we just kind of like need more rest. And that's how I saw it. And but I never saw it as actually like a tool to be used to separate, because it's such a good thing, right? Like cannabis, there's no downsides to it until you factor in the one obvious downside that is repeatable by multiple people. Like a lot of people have already seen this. Like if you were to do some like stupid poll, then you would find that the majority of people realize that when they smoke weed, they don't have dreams anymore. And then when they stop smoking weed, they have these incredibly potent dreams and remember their dreams and that whole thing. And for me, dreams are very important because when I was a kid, I used to, well, before I would go to sleep, I would be super excited about going to sleep because I knew I would dream or go fly or do something like that. And when I would wake up in the morning, I would be really excited because I would remember my dreams, and I would also be able to go to school and share my dreams with my friends. And I remember this in like kindergarten and first grade and second grade, and that time frame is where they started to get shaky. But I still remembered my dreams. I had a really good connection with them. And I was just adding up like all the on-purposeness of separation that is involved in this whole physical reality as a whole, including like the Mandela effect and the flat earth reality, how much things are changing from us basically thinking for ourselves and making those connections for ourselves, and how when we are disconnected, when we are separated through fear, through any kind of chemical imbalances, any kind of psychological conditioning, then we don't access our reality to its fullest potential. And as important and as vibrant as the connection to dreams are, from my perspective and from like the indigenous perspectives, like people who, like the ancient peoples, the ancient civilizations, they have like dream interpreters, and the shamans go into the dream space. When you go into psychedelics, it's highly comparable to dream space and how that whole reality is. So this is why I was relating it to something that is actually bigger than that space is actually bigger and all encompassing, but bigger than the Mandela effect and the flat Earth, and also that those pieces are a part of the bigness of dreams itself, because we are understanding ourselves when we go into our dreams. We are understanding this reality when we go into our dreams. Just as when you go into psychedelics, you can see a different part of yourself, a different part of your expression, a different part of the whole experience itself. And the focus that I was coming from, and I've spoken on this in other videos when I speak on dreams, is that the reason why cannabis is being legalized right now and why it was criminalized at first is because there's a divide, there's a fear amplification that happens when you criminalize something. There's also like this salivation that happens when you disconnect individuals from something so potent, something so beautiful as the cannabis connected reality. So it creates this kind of this dichotomy of lower vibrations and higher vibrations, and the lower vibrations being fear and the higher vibrations being like the love and expansion and in consciousness as a whole when you go into that space. So seeing that these controllers are very intelligent, this collective energy of dominance and energy hoarding is very intelligent. So there's a very important design, there's a reason for why things are the way they are. The way the American dream is set up, the way the physical reality in the school system itself is set up, is to separate you from your dreams by locking you into the physical reality as a whole. So when kids are playing with blocks, and they're putting blocks in the square, and they're putting triangles in the triangle and circles in the circle, and counting from 1 to 10 and saying ABC and learning English, like these limitations of understanding our reality, then we are locking ourselves into the physical reality, one reality, and separating us from our dreams. This is why we start to lose our dreams at ages like 7, 8 years old, because we can no longer, the alarm clock is going off now, and it triggers that, wake up, you're here, and then you forget where you just were and who you just was. Yeah, who you just were, and that whole connection. So your reality becomes more layered here. Another way that it gets separated is that just as the globe model keeps you from understanding your creative purpose and your meaning here and your connection with all that is, the fear program keeps you from experiencing your maximum potential in the physical reality and in your dream space. An example of that is that obviously the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex and being outside or off the grid or out of the matrix, it keeps you from creating, keeps you from imagining outside higher purposes. It keeps you from that and locks you into a specific design of your reality. So it kind of like grays everything out, like everything becomes just bland, and that blandness is energy, and that energy is connected to energy that is your dream space energy, not to mention your creator space energy, your pineal gland energy, your connection to nature, your connection to spirits, your connection to your family, just like technology cuts down that. Or that's just like a physical representation or an obvious representation of how one thing affects another. But my point being is that just in relation to everything being on purpose and the timing of everything, as far as cannabis being legalized right now, well, let me go back to the precursor of what locks down our dreams in the first place. So fear as a whole, when you're experiencing your dreams, you first have to go through these layers of dreams in order to go into higher versions of your dreams. You first have to this is why kids have nightmares so much, is because they live so much in fear because the parents are their protectors, and they have to rely on another to protect them. So they have this, and it's also new too to them as far as the dream space. So they have to go through these layers of fear, which are amplified in the physical reality on purpose. So we shut it down after a while. So one way to shut down the dreams is to get everybody invested in the physical reality. Another way to shut down the dreams is to amplify the fear program, which is why kids have nightmares. And when you have so many nightmares, your side effect to that, to get out of those nightmares, is to wake up. So as you are in a dream, in a fear program dream, and everybody says that in order to transcend a nightmare, a repetitive nightmare, you face whatever it is that's making your nightmare. But if you're so enveloped in a fear program, then in your physical reality, then when you go to sleep, you will not be able to face your nightmares, because you don't do that on a regular basis when you're in your waking space. So it'll shut down your dreams, your energy centers of dream space, when you're conscious and when you're not conscious of dreams, because we're always dreaming constantly. But this physical reality is the early anchor point. Like it's a solid state version of light. So it's the foundation to the higher realms of interaction. So if the physical reality is shut down from our maximum potential with fear, then we will see everything as a nightmare and then shut everything down eventually, which is what happens collectively right now, which is why adults don't dream or don't remember their dreams, which is why nobody talks about dreams, which is why it's like a taboo thing, and if at all spoken about or understood at all, even in especially in the university system, because the university system is designed to keep you from even thinking about that space and touching that space, because the university system is creating your universe for you. So you are going into a further separation from your spaces of allness, the further and further you get into the physical reality. So fear shuts that down by being amplified in the physical reality. It shuts it down even further when you go into the dream space and you don't fade and you have these nightmares every night. Eventually you will shut that whole program down of experience, because you're not accessing anymore. You're not utilizing it for what it's meant to be. And then you vested yourself completely in the physical reality. So you don't experience anymore. So fear had the biggest grip on the collective consciousness for these last however many decades or centuries. So they didn't need to pull the card of having an actual substance to separate you from your dreams. Because now seeing it, me as for just an example purpose, if dreams were actually the design that needed you to be separated from in order to control you, then it makes sense that cannabis would be legalized right now, because we are transcending the fear of our masters and transcending the space of collective fear to a point that we now need a substance to separate us from our dreams, from that space of understanding our connections to all that is. So this is why legalize, or could be an example of why cannabis is being legalized right now at this certain point in time, when you factor in the actual things that happen from smoking weed. Like, all this beautiful stuff happens, but what are the bad things that happen? Like I said earlier, one of the bad things, probably the only bad thing that happens with cannabis, is that you stop dreaming. But that is a big deal to me. Like, it's a big deal. And if you see that as like having a purpose, then and like a useful purpose, and what that purpose would be, it directly connects to dreams, and your dreams directly connect to consciousness, and directly connect to your connection to your ancestors and understandings and everything as a whole, which will then go into interpreting what the Mandela effect is, and then how that whole creative existence is part of this physical reality, and how even understanding what these things are happening, like what what the flat earth means, like what our connections mean as a whole. So now, seeing as cannabis being legalized right now, seeing cannabis is legalized right now as a purpose, and that purpose meaning to separate you from your dreams, and then they come out with the flat earth, is because when you don't have connection to your dreams while cannabis is legalized, then whatever kind of, the numbers will be higher for people to, when they're in the physical reality, to believe whatever it is that these astrophysicists and quantum physicists come out with, as far as understanding what the reality of a flat earth really is, what the reality of the Mandela effect really is, in quotation marks, as far as like what the so-called they want us to believe it really is, because this information is going to have to come out eventually. It will have to be spoken on eventually. So by this time, everybody would have been locked down and happy and celebrating about the fact that cannabis is legalized. All these other, $15 an hour and all this stuff is legalized. Meanwhile, we are never speaking about our dreams. And going back to the dreams in the first place, as far as like the university system creating creating the space of separation by installing your universe, your connection to your universe for you, with the American dream, with the physical reality, with the alarm clocks, with the dumbing down and all that stuff. As far as going even further into the dreams, there's these layers of dreams. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but the first layer is the fear. You have to transcend the fear, and then after you get through like the fear, and in order to anchor the point of transcending fear, you have to first have no fear of life and death from their physical reality. Like, you have to understand your infinite space, in a sense, in a physical reality, in order to access the maximum potential of your dream space. So once you do that on a conscious level, then on a subconscious level, in an infinite space of healing and access and dreaming, you'll be able to go further and further and make deeper and deeper connections with your dream space. So the first layer of that is to transcend fear. Then you can transcend challenges, and then the same thing goes for the physical reality, because the first is the fear, then you challenging yourself to imagine further and create more in the physical reality. This is the same thing that happens in your dream space. So you go from transcending fear to transcending challenge, to where you are fully in your creative space, in your waking state, and then you can do that in your dream space. And then what comes after that is getting information. You get information, like conscious information, that you could relate to the imagination, the creative space as a whole, in the physical reality and in the dream space. This is where all kinds of things start to get like more and more vibrant, and we start to access these higher levels of consciousness. This is why I said this is in a sense bigger than the flat earth and the Mandela effect as a whole, and whatever all kinds of other psyops that are out there. Really is your dreams, or so-called psyops, whatever that even means. Like all this shit exists within us perceiving our reality in the physical state, like in the waking state. But when you factor in like the connections that we go to in our higher spaces, it doesn't even really stand up. CERN doesn't even matter. CERN, like that whole scientific stuff, and NASA, that shit doesn't matter. So this can go into even further, so people are trying to find out like what the so-called leaders of the flat earth movement are not talking about. They're not talking about dreams. Doesn't matter, like, what do they, if they're not talking about anything, they're not talking about what's outside of the physical reality. If they're talking about anything within the flat earth and about the flat earth, it's all about the flat earth, which is just like this physical reality perspective. That is the biggest thing that they're not talking about, is what's beyond the physical reality as a whole. So who gives a shit like about, you know, land and extra land and all other land masses? I mean, it matters, but if that's just another layer of distraction, because we are not going into what is beyond the physical reality as a whole. And that is the biggest psyop that I am observing, as far as when you factor in cannabis criminalization at that time frame, because we had been locked down by fear, so they didn't want people to expand, because and dream in that space. And actually it stops people from dreaming through fear. And then once people have transcended that fear, now they have to lock in a substance to keep people from dreaming on a chemical space, on a substance space. If we put dreams as first. And now the distraction outside of the university system, within during the fear program, the university system and NASA was the distraction. Now during the cannabis distraction, they're going to have the flat earth as the distraction, because the level of consciousness now has risen up to the vibration of being conscious on a level of so-called high. This is what getting high actually means. So if we are high on a regular basis, then you're smoking cannabis, then you're only really thinking you're getting high. You're just going on a side level of high. The only reason you're really feeling high is because the normal space is low. And that's what this control grid wants to be emphasized, and wants to play with, as far as being able to lock down your dreams. Because I'm seeing the dreams as the biggest separation program that encompasses the firmament, the creator, the flat earth, the Mandela effect, all that connected. It's all part of our dream space. It's all part of our connections to, you know, what this place and what this space really is. And also including, like, from when people figure out the flat earth and the Mandela effect stuff, then you can see like your involvement in the creative space, your purpose and your meaning. You get more purpose, you get more meaning when you tap into higher spaces, such as making connections in your dreams. So I think I pretty much, that pretty much sums it all up, as far as what I was seeing is now bigger than, and directly connected to flat earth and Mandela effect, and cannabis as a whole, including the control grid. Yeah, I think I pretty much spoke on everything there. So yeah, if anybody has any kind of perspectives on now on seeing this and how cannabis affects them in their dreams, and because I know everybody that I've spoken with, everybody that's around me that smokes weed, they know it's a thing. It's like, oh yeah, my dreams are affected. So if that's like that could be used as a tool. Like if seeing it to be used as a tool against people, now it takes on a different light. I never done that before because it's so vibrant. Like cannabis is so beautiful when we go into that space, which is also why it's being so pumped up right now in the alternative news and being kept as like this just under the surface little treat that we're waiting for these so-called owners and masters to legalize for us, have the as if they have the power to legalize a plant, period. That's another layer of control and separation. Like they shouldn't have been criminalizing it in the first place, not to mention the health benefits of it all and that whole thing. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of expand on that moment, dreams and cannabis, and leave it open to other people to leave comments on this and kind of see and feel that space out. So that's pretty much it. And thank you for joining me. Until next time, peace, love, and harmony.